Afternoon, David. How are you?
I'm not bad, David. How are you?
I'm not bad. Can you sort out YouTube? I'll sort out Facebook.
Well. Takes a wee set. They give you the countdown, but then it's a good bit after that before it all becomes live.
Aye.
There we go. That's YouTube done.
That's Facebook done and all. No bad. People phone through the door. Now, David, I know you didn't watch the Break Up Britain debate on Saturday. You could find it on YouTube. It's an 8-hour long seminar.
Yeah, to be honest with you,
congratulations to the organisers for a good event.
Yeah, all right. It might have been a good event, but to be honest with you, it would have had absolutely no interest for me whatsoever, purely simply because I don't want to talk about breaking up the UK or Britain. I want to actually do it.
Aye, and most of the people there that are on, including the English representatives. I mean, Caroline Lucas's contribution about England, the English people having to find themselves, and the MP for Labour MP for York or someone was given it that it's about time the English people found themselves culturally, historically, and things like that. You know, the best way to do that is to take back control.
Yeah, I look at England. I go, what have they got culturally?
Well, that's what these two MPs were saying, was that the English people need to find their story and find out who they are again, which is quite interesting because that's what Clinton O'Toole has been saying in the Irish Times for years now. You know, that England has lost its identity and is having an identity crisis.
Well, looking from the outside, somebody could be forgiven for looking at Scotland and go, it's about haggis, bagpipes, and kilts, and shortbread. Biscuit tins, right?
We'll get a wee bit of that a wee bit later on, shall we?
But somebody looking outside from England, they could be forgiven for thinking it's about bowler hats and Morris dancing. You know, so.
Aye, the class system.
The class system, yeah, of course. And the empire.
You like the independent mayor of North Tyne. It's interesting, David, but as I say, it's not really something you would be interested in. But there are other people's ideas on the fact that it's time that the UK is broken. It's time to break the UK up, sort of thing, you know.
Get the ball.
Anyway, it was hosted by Leslie Riddoch, and apparently it was good. All right. So, how
many we got on board?
We've got 103 on board, so let's get started, will we?
Yep. Okay.
Right, two Davies on the 20th of 11, 2023. I'm Davy, and he's Davy. So that's why we're called the two Davies.
He's McGuinness, and I'm Milligan. There you go.
I think you can see that on the screen, to be fair, David.
After my post I put up on Saturday or so, I can't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday, you do call me pink and wrinkled. I don't know if you saw it, right? But anyway.
No, I've been busy with a lot of things that have been.
No, I went downstairs. I was still in my dressing gown, and I said to her, "What the heck? You got the heating on?" And she said, "Don't be daft. Heating on. Don't be daft." And she said, "What have you got underneath that great big fluffy blooming house coat you're wearing?"
Don't tell us, no, please.
I says, "I'll have a peek." I look, and I said, "Well, I don't know what you call it, but whatever it is, you put it in the wash with the wrong stuff because it's pink and wrinkled."
You had your right Snickers again, right? That's enough of that. Right, anyway, welcome all. Numbers are shooting up nicely, and we'll get into it. Scottish Government issues white paper en route back into the EU. The paper itself speaks of what we've lost since scrutiny, being dragged out the EU against our will, and the benefits of being in the EU, and the step-by-step process under Article 49 to get back in.
Of course, don't forget, before that, Angus is talking about 2 years to actually get our feet properly under the EU table. And yeah, okay, fine, that's okay. But in the meantime, we should be joining EFTA.
Right, thanks, Sandy, and thanks, Stephen. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Very generous of you.
Thanks, David.
We're getting near that time when YouTube pays out, so we'll be getting time to pass it out again, David.
So, David, what's your thoughts on that? Right, fair enough. It's going to be 2 years to get our feet back under the EU table.
I don't know if Angus has read Article 49, the commitments you've got to meet to get in. All right, we meet for most of the trade arrangements. We meet under democratic requirements. We don't have a currency floated yet. Don't know how quick that can be done. We don't have a central bank.
Yep.
So there are certain things that have got to be done before. Could that all be done in 2 years? Well, we know it can because the Velvet divorce. I mean, there's a central bank, a currency floated, central bank up and running, and a currency floated within months.
I've got a wee cannon printer there. I can get a currency going over the weekend, next weekend. How's about that?
You see, but this paper sets out the advantages of being in Europe, Scotland's intention to rejoin Europe, and of course the route map to get there. Now, Angus has stated 2 years.
Yeah, but my point is, do we take the bull by the horn and go, right, we'll join EFTA until such times as we meet all the requirements for properly joining Europe?
The application process is there. I've got a gentleman, once again, voices across Europe saying, of course, Scotland will be welcome back. And Patricia Ferguson is saying that EFTA might not be too keen on us joining.
Who's ringing?
Lynn Robertson. Well, I take it, Lola.
Aye, go on.
Maybe no.
No.
Well, anyway, here we go. Where was that one?
Alexander Thompson says, have you seen the price of Canon ink?
Anyway. Well, that didn't go down too well. Must be using all the bandwidth on here. Yeah. Anyway, believe that EFTA is not too keen on us using EFTA as a stepping stone to join the EU. Well,
I really don't know. I think if you consider the case of Iceland and Norway, would they have any objection to us joining EFTA, which would give us single market, but not the customs union, right? And then going on to become a full member of the EU. I can't see why they would object to that. I can't really see a very good reason why they would object to that.
No, they are, but it's their club, and if they don't want us to join it. But as I say, Angus is 2 years, but the point is, it's another one of these papers in the building the new Scotland thing.
We have to have a plan. There has to be a big plan in place. That we go, right, that's done, right, okay, press the button, right, it all goes in. Yeah.
Well, Jordy, that's very, very generous, though.
Yes.
Thank you very, very much.
I'll tell you where my pub is and I'll meet you there in like half an hour. How's about that?
But no, that's very generous. So, as I say, it's just another one of these putting the perspectives before the people. The problem we've got is that the press generally ignore them. BBC Scotland's got to say a wee bit on it, but, and then you'll get the odd one. I mean, like we talked about the last time with Sarah Widgemuller for Scotland and the Union.
Yeah.
Giving it, never mind all that crap, tell us how the Scottish and English border would work. Well, it's in this paper, folks. It tells you in this one how the border with Scotland and England would work. It's brief, it's compact, but it's more or less correct. There would have to be checks on certain goods, the same way there is with Northern Ireland. Simple as that.
The way I would like it to work on all, 26 entries to Scotland from England is exactly the same way as it does between Vancouver and Washington State in America. And I've actually seen that border running, and you talk about the number of vehicles passing through the Scotland-England border, and then you look at this and you go, my God, it's massively more going through between Canada and America. And see, we get that. See, we get that situation. It's champion. What's no problem? And the normal people that are taking their kids to school across the border, they might for some reason want their kids to go to a school in Scotland, or people in Scotland that want their kids to go to school in England. Fine, no problem. They've got a wee thing on their number plate. Just lets them go through. And every sort of 8th, 9th or 10th trip, they get pulled in just as a wee check, just to make sure they're abiding by the rules.
So people won't be a problem, David, because we have the common travel area.
Yeah.
It's always certain goods. And we already know that there's it would even cost the supermarkets a penny. Because at the moment, they're labelling things into Northern Ireland not for sale in the EU. Yeah. So that's all that's happened with goods coming to Scotland.
Yeah. Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah. But the thing is,
that's what this paper talks about.
Do we actually want a common travel area? I know there are people that will be on here that would want a common travel area, but I'm telling you right now, if we do not have a proper border in place right the way across where we interface with England, we're going to have problems in the future.
We'll buy trouble before we arrive, but we do know there's going to have to be border points, and especially for checking certain goods.
Yeah.
But it's all explained in this paper. That's the point. And as I say, our biggest problem is, apart from BBC Scotland being mandated to have to say this paper's been launched, there's been no attention brought to it in the press whatsoever.
Yeah. What was the one I heard the other day there? They mentioned about a satellite being built in Wales. There's never been a mention of the fact that Scotland is the #1 manufacturer of satellites in Europe.
Right? Satellites in Europe. Must be up there in the world, actually.
Yeah, we've never, ever had a mention. Seriously.
Oh, you sometimes get it on parochial radio, BBC Scotland, But you never hear about it in the mainstream.
David, you're the only listener.
I've not even listened since I got out of the truck, mate. Lynn, you've got problems joining us today. I'm very sorry, but I'll try jumping out of YouTube, and I'll give you a call back when the show's over, Lynn. All right. I've just outed who it was that was phoning me.
What you do is, Lynn, look for Two Davies on YouTube. So go to YouTube, get the little magnifying glass, and put in the Two Davies, and you'll find us. All right.
Aye.
His bucket says, "Build a fucking wall."
Anyway, as I say, this paper covers it all, and the process of getting back into the EU. I say they talk about 2 years. I think that's a bit ambitious, but it could be done.
Yeah.
With goodwill and good intention, it could be done.
Yeah.
So now let's move on. Did you see Dougie Ross yesterday?
I didn't, and we spoke about this. I'd love to have seen Dougie Ross. Ever been had? Douglas, ever been had, Ross?
Anyway, he's on the Scotland the Sunday show, isn't he? Or is it, no, the Sunday show, BBC Sunday show. I don't know whether it was Scotland or Sunday or just the Sunday show. As you know, I don't watch the bloody thing, but I was reading the report on it. And what they did was they went line for line, what the report said, what Dougie said, what the report said. So we got a transcript of it. Anyway, the reporter asked him about Sunak's intention to bypass the Supreme Court ruling with emergency legislation. And Dougie, he objected to it being called bypassing the Supreme Court. And he was a bit concerned that a member of the propaganda machine would pose such a question. Shock horror, how dare the BBC ask? Anyway, Dougie goes on to explain to us that Mr Sunak will be introducing emergency legislation which, poof, just makes Rwanda all of a sudden a magically safe country. I mean, I didn't know it was fucking Hogwarts. You just write a spell in Westminster and all of a sudden the world's safe. pie in the sky. Anyway, you don't tell the BBC reporter that Sunak intends to bypass the Supreme Court. After saying, I don't want you saying, he says he's bypassing the Supreme Court. Oh, you've never seen it like it. Fucking car crash.
Yeah, I'll tell you. See if Sunak manages to write something that gets past the Supreme Court. In the exact same moment, I want Humza to get something through the Scottish Parliament to bypass what the Supreme Court have done to us, the people of Scotland. And
nation that just has a challenge there. Yeah. Because as we know, any ruling of Court of Session more or less is interpreting Scots law. And you don't get any more expert than that. But what was interesting about this whole Rwanda debate thing was Maximilian Robespierre asked a question the other night that nobody else had asked. And I found it dead interesting, David, because I'm probably one of the only super buggers that knows the answer. Because I posed the question to you, did I know? And it was, why Rwanda? Why is it they're obsessed with sending people to Rwanda? Well, it's because they copied and pasted a treaty that Israel has with Rwanda. Believe it or not, it brings Israel back into the equation. Israel has an extradition treaty, agreement with Rwanda to send refugees there.
Yep.
And but in 2021, the UN issued a report and gave Israel a slap in the knuckles for this, which was ignored. And that is that when these refugees were being shipped in the thousands from Israel to Rwanda, Rwanda was then punting them back to the states they were running away from. And this was also brought up in the Supreme Court ruling. It was one of the reasons why the judges said, no, this is not on.
Yeah.
But nobody had asked the question, why Rwanda? Well, the answer to the question is because Israel had a treaty with Rwanda to take refugees. They copied and pasted it. Simple as that.
Well, what we also reported on previously, the fact that Rwanda is not safe because there is a bit of a proxy war going on between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is next door. And it's like, as far as I'm concerned, if you have refugees in your country, you've got a duty of care towards those refugees. And if you send them into a war-torn area, that you're breaking your duty of care, aren't you? Yeah.
Right. And Ian says, hey, this live on YouTube. Hi, Ian, welcome. I know you normally watch on Facebook. But as I say, I just thought it was interesting that Max is the first person. All the journalists I've heard, and Max is a citizen journalist like you and I, basically. And he's the first person to ask why Rwanda. And that's the answer. They copied and pasted a trade deal that Israel had.
Well, yeah, again, guys, you heard it here first. You heard it here first regarding woman Cameron. Why Cameron? Right? So we answered that for you, and now we're going, why Rwanda? And Davies just answered that for you as well.
It's just it's when Max popped into me. When Max asked that question last night, I couldn't get his channel's not been remonetized, so yeah. I couldn't send in a super chat to say, listen, it's because of this Israeli a treaty with Rwanda. As I say, but it goes. The Israeli treaty goes back quite a while, and I say you ended the report on it in 2021, and it discovered that Rwanda was taking these people to Israel and sending them back to the home countries where they fled persecution in the first place. As I say, I was getting through the Supreme Court ruling, and I noticed that the Lord Justices at the Supreme Court had also been aware of the UN report for what was known with Israel and Rwanda. So, as I say, Max is the first one I heard ask the question. Obviously, there's more than me aware of it.
Yeah.
But it just flagged up in my mind. The minute he asked the question, I just went, that's what it is. That's what it is. It's because they copied this bloody thing for Israel.
Yeah.
There you go. Anyway, Dougie Ross was a bloody disgrace. You know, he demands that the BBC reporter Disney say that Sunak's trying to bypass the the Supreme Court, and then goes on to explain that the emergency piece of legislation being introduced would bypass the Supreme Court. What the fuck? What a plank of wood.
Oh dear. However, I mean, do you accept my point about the Supreme Court that have destroyed our democracy by a
No,
finding?
I don't. I would say the parliamentarians have done that. The Supreme Court have done their best to interpret the pure shit put in front of them.
Yeah, but the Supreme Court effectively the ones that brought the ruling. So if Rishi Sunak is able to bring a piece of paperwork, a bill, call it what you bloody well like, that effectively allows him to skip over the finding of the Supreme Court, as far as I'm concerned, we should be doing the bloody same.
Well, I don't see why not. I mean, if Westminster's going to ignore the Supreme Court, we should just hold a referendum and ignore the Supreme Court. Yeah. But as I say, the Supreme Court are not wrecking democracy. They're having to interpret the poor shit that's put in front of them.
I get that. But they should not be, in terms of Scotland and England, they're not competent. That doesn't mean they're stupid. It means being not non-competent means that they aren't competent to hear an international treaty case. But
they weren't hearing an international treaty. This is the problem. They weren't hearing an international treaty case. They were interpreting internal law.
No, you're misreading me. Right?
I'm not honestly what you meant.
Yeah. What I mean is the Scotland-England thing. They were effectively discussing or trying to make a ruling on an international treaty between two countries, Scotland and England.
Only in the context, David. What they were doing was interpreting an Act of Parliament.
As far as I'm concerned, the Act of Parliament wouldn't have been in place if there hadn't been a Treaty of Union in the first place.
Absolutely true. It pertains to it. So whether they're competent or no is up for question, that's for sure. Anyway, we Dross was a bloody disgrace. And
I've never heard that before.
of course, he was pressed a wee bit and all on the Gaza situation, but we know the Tories, they're in it for money. You know.
Right, so we've got this thing in the newspaper about this Laura McConnell.
Oh, yes.
Who's a hopeful in the Labour stables regarding becoming an MP for Linlithgow. She doesn't trust Scots, and she's written about that. It's like, why we even bother looking at someone that does that?
This is the thing that's it's a problem for Sarwar. He's going to have to get involved in this one. Now, Miss McConnell said she's part of a group called the Multi-Generational Irish Catholic Community of Scotland. And what she said was, I will never trust the SNP or Scots in general as far as I can throw them. And I thought, who the hell are these intergenerational, a multi-generational Irish Catholic community of Scotland? Who the hell are they?
Is this not something that she wrote on social media when she was like 12 or 14 years old?
No, this is a point of view that's recent. David, as you know, you were there at the time. I went and had a look at who these people are, because I'd never heard of them.
I'm just trying to feed you. That's all.
I'd never heard of them. And coming from my background, that's bloody surprising.
Exactly. Right.
You know, I'd never heard of them. So I went and had a wee look, and apparently they're there to try and stop a bigotry against Irish Catholic Scots.
Yeah.
I thought they were just Scots once they'd been here for a while. Must just be me.
Is this, you know what I mean? It's like you look at it and you go, is this no a Rangers Celtic thing? Is this no where she's maybe had a bit too much in her face with the Rangers supporters women getting her jip because she's on that side? Because what I get is from the Rangers supporters, the Celtic supporters, they're all for women independence and all the rest of it, right? And actually, that's quite true, yes.
No, it's not actually, David. We had the polling results after the last referendum, and Rangers and Celtic fans actually voted 50-50 on the fucking issue.
Well, there you go. There you are. Right.
But no, I just didn't know who this group was. And they sound, if that's the sort of person that represents that group, they sound pretty nasty. They sound like a dark influence in our society, a bit like the Orange Order, but it sounds there.
Yeah, you look at it in words like doesn't trust Scots as far as she could throw them. Is publicly, if you're just saying it in a pub amongst friends, fair enough. But if you are saying it publicly and you're hoping to become a Labour politician,
she's been shortlisted to be a candidate for Livingston, Bargate, and Linlithgow.
Yeah.
What the hell are Labour thinking about?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, I mean, this isn't football; it's politics.
The first thing it should be is when you're trying to do some of the background checks on somebody. Right, okay, who we got here? Laura McConnell. Right, let's have a look. Oh my goodness me! Not next.
It's a bit like Labour were selecting members of the Orange Order to stand in council elections.
I know.
This takes it one step further.
Yeah. Yes, and I remember that.
But imagine living in a community and wanting to represent a community of people you don't trust.
Yeah, that's right.
She would never trust a Scot, apparently. But she did. I bet you she was born here. Some people are indoctrinated. It shows you the other side, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, coming from my background, with my name, and I've never heard of these people.
But the first thing you don't do is you don't say you don't trust the people that are going to vote for you.
Right, exactly. But multi-generational Irish Catholic community of Scotland.
You keep an eye on them.
I'm going to go and join. I can moderate the band poets.
No, don't. You'll change their minds, don't.
But what the hell is Labour thinking about? They're going to select somebody to run to represent the people she doesn't bloody trust. Yeah. Why would the people trust her to represent them?
I know. Appreciate that.
She's trying to be Scots. So she doesn't trust herself, never mind us. This takes us back to Ruth Davison. We always put the Scots in the corner so that they don't get drunk or steal things.
Yes. That was nasty.
You know, we're back to stereotyping, and this woman says she's against bigotry, and this group's against bigotry. Wow.
Anyway.
Sounds perfect for a unionist MP. Sounds like a nasty piece of work. Well, it's your Catholic work, isn't it?
Next thing we've got is food banks. Food banks dreading the winter as demand rises. Now I've got an article there that I've put up.
Aye, stick it up here.
It's maybe easier if you like just to read it to you. But
I'll just read it to you, aye. But don't forget to give us a source, David.
Yeah, I'm sticking it up there.
Who's the source?
It's BBC Scotland News.
Okay, because you've got to credit the source.
Zainab Ashraf is the writer. And I'm going to say decent. Food banks across Scotland have noticed a continuing increase in users, while some say donations have dropped. Fiona Dalgleish, the manager at Peeblesshire Food Bank, told BBC Scotland News, "We are dreading the winter, to be honest. Last year was bad enough, but people are now completely exhausted and demoralised on top of being cold and hungry." Trussell Trust, a food bank network which operates across the UK, said it had distributed 128,490 food parcels in Scotland so far this year. Don't forget, that's just Trussell Trust. Not every food bank is under Trussell Trust, right?
Yeah.
The Inverclyde Food Bank is part of the Trussell Trust network, and manager Adam Wines said he had noticed a 36% increase in use at the same time as a 30% drop in donations. There you go, guys. You've got 36% more use, 30% less stuff coming in that you can give out. Mr. Wines said donations were typically from local supermarkets and churches. However, he added that the food bank had to shop for groceries to be able to continue supporting the community. All right. I'm not going to go into every single part of this. Basically, it's all about the headline you see there. Donations have completely dropped. Hence, our viewership make donations so that we can give the smaller food banks the support. We specifically do not support the Trussell Trust because they've got a network that they can use to gain more money, resources, whatever, right?
Whereas we have helped the Trussell Trust in the past, but it's not our intention.
It's not our intention, yeah. So this it's a story that's going to grow arms and legs this year. I think the food banks are going to end up in a situation where there's next to nothing coming in the way, and a massive demand on them for food parcels.
Aye.
And it just shows what a state the people are in.
People are already on the edge, and a lot of these people are working families. You know,
you look at Inverclyde. Inverclyde, I now look at one time it was big shipyards and all the rest of it, right? And it did great. It's built itself back up a bit, and it's now Inverclyde's quite a nice place in terms of the industry they've got and things like that, right? And if they are suffering a 36% increase in demand and a 30% drop in food actually going into it, I've got to say that's going to be worse right across Scotland.
Aye, and when we get to the autumn statement, we'll talk about some of this stuff. When we get to the rate of inflation, we'll talk about some of this stuff. But the food bank situation, and you've got to remember the Bank of England's chief economist was predicting another 250,000 on the brew by the summer.
What do we do then, guys? What do we do then?
People are already on the edge. Right, let's move on to Labour backlash and ceasefire votes. Now, it's went two different ways in Scotland and England, this one, but we'll start doing that road. Doing that road, Labour MPs have been getting pelted by their constituents, and all of a sudden, there are no snowflakes in the Commons when it comes to bombing kids in Gaza, but it would appear they're a bit of a snowflake when they take criticism from their constituents. And it would appear that they're getting like death threats, apparently.
Yeah.
That's an ordinary. Listen, see this bollocks, folks. Don't listen to this. This isn't every day of the week thing for MPs.
I saw a video of Anthony Wedgwood Ben talking about Israel, Palestine, way back when he was alive, obviously, right? And saying that this won't change until the two-state system is put in place and all the rest of it, right? And then I looked at the people that had actually voted against it. I hadn't just abstained, but they'd actually voted against it. There was Anthony Wedgwood Ben's son, Hilary Ben, who voted against the ceasefire. Yes?
Yep.
So,
thank you very much, Geordie. That's amazing. I'm sorry to hear about your mother. And Tommy Gourley, congratulations on the birthday of your new grandchild. And the cycle turns, David. But thank you very much, Geordie. But listen, it's not a lot and there's hard times coming. You hold on to it, mate. You've been more than generous. Thank you.
They do so, yeah.
And commiserations in the passing of your mother. Say the cycle turns because we have to congratulate Tommy Gourley on the birthday of his grandchild.
Yeah.
Now,
the hardest thing to do, Geordie, when you've got a wee lump of money like that in your pocket, it does burn a hole in your pocket. And you think, what can I spend it on? Just hang on to it, son. Hang on to it, because that is your wee escape route if things go really, really pear-shaped. All right. So anyway, sorry, David, carry on.
Well, we'll get the lunatic bus driver back using the name John Stewart. Apparently, food banks are in part a good prop up of the welfare state. Charity, John, is a failure of state. If there is a need for charity, the state has failed.
Yep.
It has failed to provide the basic needs and services. And that includes the basic human right of food in your belly, John.
Yeah.
What an outrageous statement. Put yourself in the naughty step. Please burn your arse in a candle.
Yeah, right, okay.
Anyway, you're with me. Aye, the Labour backlash. Now, up here in Scotland, it's going a wee bit different. It's got a wee bit weird. Sarwar's under a huge amount of pressure because his two MPs, Murray and Shanks, voted with the Westminster government. And the question has been asked of Sarwar, did you tell them to vote for a ceasefire? Because if Sarwar's a Scottish Labour leader, surely they too would have voted the way he asked them to vote.
Don't forget, it's like for the Parliamentary Labour Party, they're not interested in what comes out of Holyrood. They're not interested in who is in Holyrood. All they're interested in is what happens in the House of Commons. So therefore, if you ask the Parliamentary Labour Party in London who's in charge, whether it be Sarwar or Murray or Shanks, they would go, well, either it's Murray or Shanks, it's certainly not Sarwar.
Yep.
Yeah.
But anyway, that leads to the branch office up here, having to reiterate that it backs a ceasefire.
Yeah.
With one Brent Sale Bailey saying that the Scottish position is pretty clear. No, it's not. Because as you just said, David, they two MPs outrank that lot in Holyrood. So the Labour Party's position is not clear.
Yeah, according to the Parliamentary Labour Party. Yeah. So people in Scotland, people in Labour in Scotland would go, no, they're part of Scottish Labour if they're MPs in Scotland. But from the Parliamentary Labour Party in Westminster, it would be Sarwar that was the underling, something like that.
Aye, but anyway, then that is say that leads to one Brain Cell Bailey getting interviewed. Right now, it also leads to speculation that Labour in tomorrow's debate will put down an amendment to say that either should be a ceasefire, but there should be humanitarian pauses first as stepping stones to a ceasefire. Now, I've heard this coming out of Labour down that road, you know. So let's clarify this one, David. Do you want to clarify it or will I clarify it?
No, you do it so well, David. Please do it. On you go.
All right then. So, what Poverty Pie is coming under pressure for the kids starver to lay an amendment to the Scottish Parliament's vote on a ceasefire tomorrow, right? The Welsh Parliament's already had that vote, and they voted for a ceasefire, and Labour voted for a ceasefire. But what Starmer's demanding is that he puts in an amendment is that the Palestinian people get tortured en route to a ceasefire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, so in other words, it's being rumoured that the Labour Party in Scotland will put an amendment down to say that there should be humanitarian pauses as a stepping stone to a ceasefire. Now, when you think about that, these people are getting the shit bombed out of them. I've explained this one before. This is mental torture. They're going to stop, give them a elastoplast, a wee drink, a latter, a wee bit of food, and give them a pat in the head and say, that was kind of yours, wasn't it, to give you something to eat, and then they're going to blow the shit out of them again. Yeah. And how many of these stepping stones is there going to be? We're at 15,000 dead now, 2/3 of them women and children. How many? How much blood has got to be shed here? But as I say, we can get to that a wee bit later on again, David, but we'll get back to the position that Sarwar now finds himself in. He's now at odds with the party down that road.
Yeah, well, looking at Labour's position on this, where they're talking about humanitarian pauses, it really does show either they haven't got two brain cells to rub together, yeah, they really don't understand and have not thought it through, or B, they are so tied up with the Israeli government that they daren't say anything else.
Well, David, as we know, as you pointed out, a fifth of the shadow front bench were financed to get where they are today by Labour Friends of Israel, the lobby group. It's as bad as the US.
And hang on, the chap that backs Starmer is a major lobbyist for the Labour government for for the Israeli
government. The Labour friends for Israel, that's right. You get Starmer, I think, get 50 grand, so he's basically beholden to these people. But as I say, Labour in England are claiming to be the victims here because their constituents are no chuff with them. I mean, this was a clever trick that Starmer did. He said to people, okay, if you can't vote against a ceasefire, abstain, but when you're in the Commons, you can make the case for a ceasefire. So they played to the crowd. As their constituents tuned in, they would have seen their MPs storm up one after another, giving it, we demand a ceasefire, and then get conned because they would either abstain or vote against it.
It's wrong. It's disgusting. It is absolutely dreadful.
But as I say, the Labour Party in Scotland and England have got Scotland and their headquarters in London are butting up against each other, and I'm hearing there's pressure on Sarwar to introduce this amendment.
Well, you know,
as to try and show some unity between in the party.
I would like,
and England.
Yeah, I would like for these Labour MPs to sit down and watch Al Jazeera for an entire day and be made to watch it, because it's painful. It's painful watching people getting bombed back to the Stone Age. It's painful watching children being rushed into hospitals.
We'll get to that, David, but at this point in time, we'll talk about civil war in the Labour Party.
Well, to be honest with you, I hope the Labour Party goes and Shanks can provide the fucking toilet for.
I wonder what the people of Rutherglen, Hamilton West are thinking now.
Yeah.
The new MP votes to have children bombed to hell and back.
Yeah, exactly. Money.
Wow.
Money as well. Money as well.
I wonder how people in Edinburgh feel.
Yeah, and then we've got this Laura McConnell, who's the latest light in blooming Livingston, Bathgate, and Linlithgow. What's she saying about it? I bet after she says doesn't trust the Scots as far as she can throw them. Well, most of the Scots are blooming was twinned with Palestine. There you go.
Well, that might be a good call. Shanks might take Curtis Sarwar. But the problem with that is Shanks known in the Scottish Parliament.
Yeah.
But he might become party leader here. Sarwar is puppet master in the Parliament.
No, we had the situation with Murphy, who was an MP, and he was able to actually run the Labour opposition in the Scottish Parliament using someone else. Yes.
One Bruce Bailey at the time or something like that, was it not?
No. It was what's the lassie? Kezia Dugdale.
Kezia Dugdale. Aye, so it was, aye. Right, anyway, see we're on the press in Gaza. The BBC, they've had a wee turn. Have they not?
Yeah. I was quite shocked. When I saw the report that was put out by the BBC talking about what they had been shown. In actual fact, David, I'll hand this. We talked about this earlier, and you did explain it beautifully. Go on.
Right, the Israelis, the IDF had put a video out the Shifa hospital, and they made claims about finding weapons, they made claims about CCTV cameras being turned towards the wall.
Yeah.
That sounds like something that they would have done the way in the door. And
the thing is, so they show you a video of like somebody getting pulled in a gurney, right? With a missing leg, so they have a right to be there, right? Okay, and they were saying they're carrying guns, and I'm looking at the video and I'm going, okay, where's the gun?
Anyway.
But the thing is, though, as you say, if Hamas had been going to take over that hospital, the very first thing they had done was, right, bang, there's one, closed circuit, bang, there's another one, right? And they'd take them out, or they'd turn them, or whatever, cover them with sellotape.
So anyway, we then got a walkthrough with this mob, and the initial video they released said there was no edits or showing you as we find it, right? Then we see a couple of laptops that allegedly belong to Hamas. And then we're taken further into the hospital a wee bit, and we're shown a gurney with some magazines and some military equipment on it, right? And the question is, but this stuff could have been taken right off the back of an Israeli soldier's back and put in a bloody table. Anyway, the BBC did a report on it. They know our boy handled it brilliant. He shows the IDF video and says, by the way, this is a repost the IDF video. They took it down and put it back up again. The guy made that clear. And you can see the soldiers watch. And he says, that's roughly 2 hours before they let us in. And then they show the BBC video clip bits against the Israeli video clip bits. And in the MRI room, they went from 1 Kalashnikov in the grab bag to 2 Kalashnikovs in the grab bag. What they'll call in a grab bag. Something ready for somebody to run in and grab and be ready to fight, you know. And then you get further in, and there's murderous stuff lying in the gun, this sort of thing. And the BBC reporters very carefully say they can't verify where these materials came from. You know, they highlight that it's a different image that they see for the one that was seen. And the Israeli Defence Force justify it by saying that, it was a couple of hours later, so we'd found a few more things.
What this broadcast to me is, I'm getting sick and tired of being expected to believe what the Israelis are telling us.
Well, that's what we're doing, because I think the BBC, to protect their international reputation, is something to have a new approach to this as well.
Yeah, I think that's the point the BBC are making here. The BBC have got a worldwide reputation. It's not about Scotland. It's not about England, Ireland, or Wales, or Northern Ireland, Wales, right? It's about something international, and lots of other audience will be watching, and they would want to see the BBC being the good guy.
Aye, but the BBC will service soft power. You know, yeah. We've seen other states there, and all like America and Russia through the Russia Today network, things like that. You know.
Can I give you one other item, right? On the TV this morning was the guy in the Israeli Defence Force outfit talking to the camera, and he was talking about a 65-metre long tunnel that's been found underneath the hospital. So fucking what? I've climbed under the blooming tunnels under the big hospital in Guruk, forget what it's called, and that carries all the pipes from the boiler house back to the main hospital, right? And that must be about 100 and odd metres low. No lights in it whatsoever. You carry a torch, right? There's a wee youth in training. You're a wee scared youth in training.
Yeah, going along the hospitals in Glasgow and Edinburgh. They've got a network of underground tunnels which feed services.
Yeah, Glasgow, my goodness me. This from the old telephone exchange, which was Dial House. You had tunnels that went to Alexander Parade and all the rest of it, and there's a golf cart inside it. So therefore, the Israeli Defence Force to be saying, we found a tunnel underneath a hospital. I'd be very surprised if you didn't.
I'm glad you find that, David, because people here in the West are getting it. We'll pull over their eyes for very simple reasons. If we look at the new hospital in Glasgow, I mean, all its services are underground. They've even got robots and other stuff and corridors and things like that, right? You take the one in Edinburgh, the new Royal Infirmary there. There's a whole network of tunnels, and like you were talking about with golf carts, they actually have carts that they ship the stuff around in with trailers on the back for department to department. The idea of tunnels under service tunnels under utility buildings, under hospitals, these are no new ideas. The mere fact that the press is trying to blindside people and say that tunnels under hospitals is an unusual thing is absolutely bloody bollocks. When everything's being used for operational purposes above ground, you put your services underground. It makes bloody sense.
In actual fact, a lot of the more modern hospitals have got their services stacked maybe 2 and 3 levels below ground level. And that's common sense. That's just pure common sense. You're trying to keep the clean area away from the dirty area. Simple as that, you know.
Your utility is based and all. You know, but as I say, if you take the new Edinburgh Royal Infirmary, there's a network of tunnels under that allows services to flow under the hospital and no get in the road of the operational function of the hospital.
Yeah.
No.
Anyway, that BBC report on what the IDF were feeding them, it just shows that the IDF are. My point on that was, who are you trying to convince? Why are you trying to convince people that this is the case?
Right, we've got a couple of stories to cover in 10 minutes, so we better give a hooky back to it. Because
that's the point is, why are the Israeli government trying to do it? Simple as that, they've lost the narrative. The people of the world are going, no, shut up, we don't believe you.
That is
the Israeli Defense Force are going, oh no, really, we found all this, you know.
Anyway, let's move on. Inflation hits halfway. So that's one of Davies' predictions this year out the window, because I said it'd stay about 8.7. But we haven't got to April yet next year. And there's a couple of factors coming down the line which are going to make this go back up again. Or it should make it go back up again. But anyway, the root cause of the drop in inflation, believe it or not, is down to one sector, and that's the energy sector. Yeah. Fuel prices have come down. But as Millie has pointed out, there's a price rise coming in January, which will have an inflationary pressure. And we've got the Brexit checks. They're supposed to be getting, some of them being imposed in January. And that will affect food inflation.
And it's colder.
Aye. And if you look at all the indicators that inflation is based on, wages, fuel costs, food, all that sort of thing, the only one that shifted to any great amount is the fuel, the price of energy. Will it be
petrol? Now remember, we've said this in past programmes. Inflation is a personal effect. The inflation pressures will affect David a different way that it affects me and my family, right? So it just depends on what you buy. Yeah. So that please remember that. So when you hear this thing on TV about inflation, please remember it does depend.
Well, on the other ones like clothing, it's still up there about 9.6. On food, it's still up there at 10.4. You know.
Yeah.
The main shift, wages, they are still below. Well, they were below inflation before this drop. They were still below inflation at about 5%. You know. So these are not the inflationary pressures. The big one at the moment is energy and food.
Yeah.
And food's not coming down. It's rising less quickly, but it's not coming down. And it's not rising that much less quickly, actually, because it's still above 10%. But inflation being down at 4%, we'll see how long it stays there. But it's no bad. It's good. It's a short relief for some people.
David, can you pop up what Suzanne says? That's rather a good point. Suzanne DW.
No, that's fine. Just is moving up fast on my screen.
Suzanne, that's a wonderful comment. I'm tired of electric prices being tied to gas. More and more electric being provided from green sources. Absolutely. Why is it tied to gas? Suzanne is absolutely spot on. It's because the majority of power stations in England are gas-fired. And our electricity price is being honked on the back end of every blooming power station in England, or almost every power station, being gas-fired and being tied to the price of gas. Whereas in Scotland, our houses are blooming powered by the blooming windmills up in the hills. Something like that. You know. So good Suzanne. Brilliant. Keep telling people that. All right.
Roger works in the big hospital in Glasgow, and Alistair works in the big one in Edinburgh, and they can confirm there are tunnels there.
Yeah. All right.
But
I've been in the West.
Inflation being where it is, it could be a wee bit of respite for some people at the moment, but not by much, because as David points out, it affects us all differently.
Yeah.
You know.
I'll buy the cheapest clothes going, right? Seriously. I go looking at all the different cheap places you can get, Primark and whatever, right? And I even go looking for cheaper than that. So really, I'm not affected much by inflation. However, my stepson, he's a dedicated follower of fashion. He must be paying a fortune in terms of inflation. So there you go.
Right, let's move on. Total statement Wednesday. Looking at $2 billion coming off of the disabled and off of benefits in order to fund tax cuts for the rich.
Yeah, and I think that taking my blooming winter payment off me, my pension.
Yes, aye. That's it. That's you grumpy old grey-haired papa.
I'll be on that train down to blooming Downing Street, seriously. And I'm like, right, come on, hand it over. Right, Richie, sign us a wee cheque. Just peel us off a cheque, please, would you?
Anyway, they're also talking about tax cuts and scrapping inheritance tax is one of them. And then supposed to be a growth budget or growth statement. So there'll be cuts to some business allowances, taxes and things like that,
Growth. Do these people understand what they're saying?
No.
Growth.
No.
Yeah.
In order you need a market to grow, innit?
Yeah.
And
right.
These fucking idiots are drawing money out of people's pockets. And as we keep saying here, David, this is a consumer economy. If the consumer's no money, the economy flatlines. What's the economy doing? It's flatline.
Yeah. Can I just say everybody, right? So you listen to these bastards. Jeremy Hunt, right? When he comes on, he's always got a wee smile. I'd love to take that smile off my face, right? But anyway, he should be called Jeremy. Ever been had? Hunt, or whatever you want to say, right? Because you're being had. If you believe anything he says about growth, about inflation and all the rest of it, you've been had.
Yeah, but you've got to remember, the Labour Chancellor's doing the same thing, talking about growth. You need a market to grow into.
Yep. But I've got to have a go at one at a time.
And Theresa May's better deals for Africa is no kill off either. They don't want bugger out of Davies. There was a cracking report in the National Day about how the UK is bullying these ex-colonies.
Well,
aid efforts.
What is it they call the African, the group of African nations?
Free Trade Association, the African Free Trade Association.
You know, they're now becoming a wee bit more savvy, and they're realising that countries like France and whatever have screwed them well and truly for years. And now what they're doing is they're starting to turn the knob the other way.
Done. So your dad there again today, son.
I would like to see Africa really turn the thing the other way, because the African nations don't have to be as poor as they are. They're actually very, very rich, because like Scotland, they have a lot of natural resources, and that's real wealth.
Well, anyway, that report in the National Day is a cracker for anybody that wants to read it. Right. Now, David, we're out of time more or less, so I'm just going to round this one up with a wee bit more on a subject which is keen to my heart, and that is the manipulation of people by the press. So, my headline of the week, David, is West board with Ukraine.
Well, we heard a few weeks ago the chap from the Grand Old Party stood up and he said, "Well, Ukraine, you've had your sandwich. Now fuck off." Basically, it's what they're saying is they gave the. Do you remember was it 105 billion that Biden was trying to get released from Ukraine and Israel? Well, Israel got theirs, but Ukraine didn't.
Well, as I say, I mean, that's my headline of the week. West board with Ukraine.
Yeah.
I mean, and this takes us back to one of the reasons why we put this programme on, and that is press manipulation of the populations.
Yeah.
Right? We move from one crisis to the next crisis to hit the front page. But this could have been any war in any place.
Yeah.
You know, it could have been the carry on the Democratic Republic of Congo. It could be what's going on in any African nation that's got a bit of conflict in it. Yeah. This is about misdirection, folks, and it's about keeping your eye away from the real things that are going on in the planet.
Generally, if a country is well off and their people are happy and well catered for, they don't go to war. They don't want anything to do with it. Like, you look at somewhere, a place that maybe I don't agree with politically would be Singapore, right? There's no chance of Singapore going to war with somebody because they've got too much to lose, right? And it's the same as blooming America. America's never been attacked. Not even in 9/11 were they attacked. They did that themselves, but that's another story, right? But America have not actually been attacked. The reason is because, well, they make sure they keep everybody out, and therefore they've got too much to lose.
And class actions put something up on the inheritance tax that they're talking about scrapping, and that is only 3.7% of the UK population.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the only argument for getting rid of it. There's only a small amount of people pay it, and it's only a smidgen, they say. You know, that 4 billion a smidgen makes a difference.
Yeah, I forget what the number was, but is it 350,000 or 600,000 estate's got to be worth before it's subject to inheritance tax? Can't remember, but to be honest with you, 3.7%, that definitely takes it into Tory territory.
Yep, but as I say, that was my headline of the week, and it was in one of the US papers, and that is West War with Ukraine. And that was highlighting the fact that nobody's watching what's happening there anymore because we have now been directed to look at Gaza. Although I would say at this point in time, what's going on in the Gaza Strip and the actions of Israel is worthy of international press. Of course it is, and international pressure. Which brings me to the point. The point is that international pressure is starting to work. And as you said in our preamble before we came out the green room to start this show, it looks like the UK and the US are starting to look a little isolated in this one.
Yep. Alistair, thank you very much, sir.
It's beginning to look as if they are led by donkeys. Did an exposure of Hunt's properties. I've seen it. The 7 properties that he bought, and he rents them for £1,800 to £2,200, and some posh carry on. But as I say, people pressure is working, folks. Don't buy Israeli products.
Yeah. The 729 and 871. The reason that the 871 came about, I read the other day there, was because a lot of people worldwide had found out about the 729 and had boycotted it.
Aye,
stopped.
We explained this one. At first, people were getting it wrong. They had 821 and they were boycotting stuff for Italy. But 871 it is, folks, and 729. Don't buy Israeli goods. People pressure is making a difference. Governments around the world are starting to change their mind. And if
you work in a dock, or you are related to, or are friends with someone that works in a dock, do not allow any items that are bound for Israel to leave the dock, because at the end of the day, I bet you there's arms in it. Because Israel are now wanting to spend lots of money to replenish their bombs and their tank rounds and all the rest of it, and their bullets.
Anyway, Lorraine's been looking, and she says Dove body wash is 871. So it's been imported to Israel. Don't buy it. I'll just check it back because it might be coming from multiple factories. And class action, just before we finish up, in order to pay inheritance tax, your estate has to be over 325,000 euros.
325, yeah. My stepson mentioned it to me, but I just couldn't remember the exact figure. So 325, I'll keep my head now. Okay.
Right, that's what we'll do this week. Today, folks, we'll be back obviously after the autumn statement. We'll probably have a fair bit to say about that on Thursday because it's happening on Wednesday. And we'll probably have a fair bit to say about the debate that takes place tomorrow in the Scottish Parliament on a ceasefire. I want to hear the bile and the vile coming from the Tory party. I want to see what happens with Labour. And of course, we'll be talking about the continued circus that is the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers. We didn't even cover the continued civil war in the Tory party. It's just too funny. We don't have time to, It's a bit like that boy does a interesting times, We don't have time to talk about this. We don't have time to talk about that. Yeah.
Anyway, right. So If you like what we did, smash the like button. If you haven't subscribed to us yet, please, please, please subscribe to us. Let's get those numbers up so that the advertising the Google put on, they pay us more for because of the number of subscribers, right? But thanks again for joining us, guys. We're humbled by the fact that you come and watch us.
Watch for your very kind contributions today, especially you, Jordy. That was above and beyond to say sorry to hear about your mother. And Tommy Gourley, congratulations on the birth of your new grandchild.
Hi. Yes, congratulations. Right, anyway, that just leaves me to say bye, Davey.
Bye,
bye guys.
Bye, folks.